and welcome to Coffee with Craig. Earlier this year, we launched this interactive web series as a new way to communicate with you, our client. It was received so well that we decided to continue this series as a part of InMotion. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone on the front line who made such great sacrifices during the COVID-19 crisis and continue to do so for the betterment of our community. We would also like to thank the advocates and the resources who support the wheelchair community. During this year's InMotion, we are privileged to share some of their stories in a new way. We're going to continue our third episode of Coffee with Craig by introducing you to Amy Beck, the Executive Director of the Lehigh Valley Center for Independent Living. Amy runs one of over 400 centers for independent living throughout the country. Chances are there are a Center for Independent Living center near you that offers services for people with disabilities. Today, Amy is going to educate us on what a CIL, another name for a Center for Independent Living, can do for you. Good morning, Amy, and welcome to Coffee with Craig.
Good morning, Craig. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Amy, can you share a little bit about yourself and what led you to the Lehigh Valley Center for Independent Living?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I found out right after high school that I had a rare muscle condition, and part of the journey through that was becoming more aware of myself as a person with a disability and my rights. And I was recently graduated with my MSW, and I was pulled into the amazing energy of Carl Oedner, who founded LVCIL. And Carl was a person who was determined we would create a Center for Independent Living. He convinced me to join the board of directors. I was actually the incorporating president of the agency way back 30 years ago. And it's been a very parallel and good journey for me. I'm a social worker. I believe in people's rights. I believe each of us has an important role in the community. And Centers for Independent Living look at it that way. Centers for Independent Living operate at all times with a majority of board members and staff being people who have life experience with disability. So it's a good environment where there's no tokenism and everyone matters. So I've found it a perfect journey for myself. And as I went through the years with my muscle disease, I became a wheelchair user, and people through the Center for Independent Living really are the ones who helped me get ready for that and deal with that. So I think I'm tied in pretty tight to this whole thing.
Sounds like a great story, Amy. And I'm sure it's a journey that a lot of people with disabilities have gone on in their lives. Can you give us a little bit of history of the Center for Independent Living and how they came to be and the mission of the over 400 centers across the country?
Yeah. The Centers for Independent Living were born out of the civil unrest of the 1960s and the battle for the civil rights for people of different backgrounds. And while the Civil Rights Act was passed, people with disabilities in institutions started saying, wait a minute, there's nothing here for us. We don't have rights. And actually in Berkley, a group of people going to school at UCLA Berkeley happened to be people who were quadriplegics. And the way the campus worked, it was obviously somewhat accessible, but an old infirmary was turned into a residence hall, especially for people with disabilities. And so this group of people who were quadriplegics became known as the Rolling Quads. And with the leadership of Ed Roberts, they founded the first Center for Independent Living. And, you know, you got to remember back at that time, like by the early 70s, if you had a significant disability, you probably lived in an institution or you lived at home with your family because the community just did not offer as many resources. So they made some important rules about what a Center for Independent Living would be. That big one, that it would always have an emphasis on consumer control, meaning that we'd have that at least 51% majority of people with disabilities in our staffing and our governance. But that consumer control also means that people with disabilities, our consumers, will always make their own choices. You know, compare it to like the 70s, if you lived in an institution and someone was going to come up with your goal plan for your life, you were probably not even on the same campus. Some well-meaning professionals were together and decided what they thought was best for you. It's never that way at a Center for Independent Living. You steer the ship, you pick your goals. We're not there to tell you what to do. We'll help you examine options. But in the end, you exert the ultimate dignity of making your own choices.
Good, good. Thank you, Amy, for all that information. I know it's very helpful. I also understand, and people who read the story prior to this interview know that there's 5 key initiatives that every Center for Independent Living across the nation is striving to achieve. Can you just briefly share with us what those 5 initiatives are?
Sure. We call them our core services. So every Center for Independent Living provides information and referral, which is basic, where can I find this? How do I do that? And you can just have one light touch contact, find out your information, and be on your way. Our staff are experts. If they don't know it, they will probably find it out for you in a very short time. The second core service is advocacy, and that is both on a systems level or individual. Systems-wide could be helping in a letter writing campaign to educate legislators on what's really important to people with disabilities in your community. The individual advocacy could be someone calling in saying, my landlord is telling me that because I got a service dog that I have to pay an extra fee. Can he do that? And we can help people learn their rights. And the third core service is independent living skills education. And, that has to do with learning what you want to and need to know to live as independently as you wish. We had a young gentleman one time who was building his independence, and he said, I want to start on cooking. I want to learn how to make a grilled cheese sandwich. I want to learn how to make scrambled eggs. Like, these are basic things in life, and the Center for Independent Living staff are great at providing those in a group setting or on an individual setting. Our fourth core service is peer support, sometimes called peer counseling, and that is a person with a disability sitting down with a consumer, and there's a shared life experience that can be discussed. It's not a therapeutic helping relationship, but it is a very strong way to build someone's confidence, help them learn to build their natural supports. Sometimes that's done in a group and done or individually. And the fifth core service is a 2-pronged thing. It has to do with transition. One is helping people transition out of nursing homes or other institutions. And the community has many more options now, and Centers for Independent Living are really skilled in helping people to move into a less restrictive setting. And the other part of transition is youth transition, and that's helping young adults with disabilities as they're moving through school, getting into the rest of their life. So those are our 5 core services.
Great, great. Now, I know that you serve people with all types of disabilities, but what are some of the services that you get that are most requested from those people who use wheelchairs as their primary form of conveyance?
Well, we definitely do get phone calls from people who are looking to explore their options. Some people may be using a paratransit service that may or may not meet all their needs. And we often refer individuals to providers when people have resources, or even to be referred to a provider such as Mobility Works to learn about their funding sources. We do help people who are wheelchair users to look at many ways of getting funding when they need equipment. And we're in Pennsylvania, many of us can help people learn about different resources. But a lot of times, we do have many people who use wheelchairs who may be part of our attendant care service programs in different CILs, people who are involved in our peer support group, community activity group, a lot of it building a network, because the better your network, we all know that's going to make your life better. And I think Centers for Independent Living we have many staff who use wheelchairs, so we're a natural extra source of information. And hey, I went to this restaurant and it was really good for a wheelchair user, and they have better parking there. And I heard of a hotel in New York City that was good. So, we're really good at connecting people with the things in the community that they should fully enjoy.
Great, great. Now, finally, I know that COVID-19 has changed much of the ways that we do business and interact with one another. What changes have you seen at your agency, and how have you been able to adapt?
Well, I think we were luckier than some organizations because our our technology was just about ready for everyone who needed to work from home to be able to do that. We did make a quick flight into some stores to get some extra cell phones for people who hadn't needed them. So our staff transitioned to working from home. Some of them, we have a skeleton crew at our building for certain functions. But we learned that we had to become elastic and meet the needs of our consumers virtually. And we still have staff going out for consumer needs. There may be a critical document for someone's housing or benefits. You know, someone's driving out, meeting someone outside their home for a signature. We've also been working hard to get PPE, not only for our staff, but that when a consumer is asking for it, that we can provide that. So someone has a face mask to go into the community. And I think many centers for independent living are doing that. We've been working on getting some resources to increase the amount of emergency food outreach that we can provide in the community. But probably the most important thing we've been able to do is that our staff have made a concerted effort to reach out to, you know, probably over 1,500 consumers, checking in, do you need something? And then we can connect them with what's in the community if it's something that isn't a service that we provide. So it's taken this to really see, though, our community really coming together in many ways locally, I think in many areas, to help make sure that people who are food insecure are getting access to food. You know, our local programs have changed some guidelines to get food to people more quickly. And we've helped a lot of people investigate how they could get their, even though they might receive SSDI or SSI, how they could, you know, make sure they could still get a stimulus check. So we've helped in many different and unexpected ways.
That's good to hear. I do want to remind everyone watching at home that if they'd like more information on a Center for Independent Living, you can hit the chat button below, or feel free to leave a comment in many of the social media sites that this video will be on. Amy, I want to thank you for your time today, as well as sharing how a Center for Independent Living can help those living with a disability. I know that our audience would appreciate your insight into services they may well need. We will continue our Coffee with Craig series in 2 weeks when we meet David Williams, a service officer with the Disabled American Veterans, and how he advocates for veterans in Central Virginia. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.